So, Assalamualaikum and thank you for watching our presentation. So, thank you for our lecture and my fellow friend for your attention. So, my name is Muhammad ADHAM and I will explain about introduction and embryonic stem cell ethic and issue.
Yeah, hi, Assalamualaikum. My name is Muhammad SYAHMI RAHMAN and my metric number is 203217. So today I will be presenting on the ethical dilemma of embryonic stem cell research as well as the new potential solutions towards it.
Okay, Assalamualaikum. My name is SHAFIQ bin SHARI with metric number of 202682. I will be talking about embryonic stem cell research and religion and their regulation in Malaysia.
Okay, let us proceed with what is embryonic stem cell. So, actually, embryonic stem cell is a field of study in our course that associates with our course, which is biocell and molecular biology. So, this is our expertise field in our study. So, let's begin with what is embryonic stem cell. So, embryonic stem cell is actually a cell that derived from the ovum and from the embryo that we got from the ovida. So, this embryo is actually at the development stage. It's not fully becoming the fetus. So we take the inner part of the embryo to make the inner cell, which is the embryonic stem cell. So why we take the inner cell? So the inner cell actually, the cell is still does not differentiate into specific cell. So it is a basic cell. We can program it to becoming what cell we want. But how about the outside of the cell? Outside of the cell is already programmed to become a placenta when the fetus attached to when the cell attached at the uterus. So we cannot take the outside part of the embryo, so we just take the inner side of the cell. Okay, so that is what embryonic stem cell, or we can call it ES cell. So actually, next slide. So what ES cell can treat? What can we use for? So actually, embryonic stem cell can be used to treat various chronic diseases such as osteoarthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, multiple site cancer, stroke, bone marrow, and other chronic diseases. Okay, next. So let us now moving to our focus today, which is embryonic stem cell ethics and society issues. So to begin with my point, so number one is does embryo have moral status? Have you ever wondered? So I got three statements that I got from a debate that happened in Oxford University. So this three statements actually is about against, agree, and a neutral statement about embryo moral status. So let's begin with the first one. The first one is the embryo moral status increasing as it becomes more human-like. It should be given respect and dignity. I agree with this statement because this statement that it tells us that fertilization is a process of human becoming a human, not a single cell becoming a human, which is alive becoming alive. It is not non-living thing becoming a living thing. It is a people becoming a people process. So that is the fertilization process. So the second statement is an early development embryo has not yet been developed into uterus, does not have emotional or physical properties. So actually, this statement is against the embryo moral status. Actually, I also agree with this statement. Why? Because if we look at a single cell doesn't have properties of person. It doesn't have feeling. It doesn't have spinal cord, a brain, or organ, or specific organ that can be treated as a person. So it is a cell, and when it becomes a fetus, okay, that's the stage where we can call it a person when it becomes a fetus. So the third statement is a neutral statement, which is either the embryo is viewed as a person, is it still an embryo, or is it a potential to be a person? So actually, the third statement is what I want to say is about the third statement. Say actually, embryo moral status it depends on anybody. So depending on the scientist, depending on the person who is the research, so depend how they see the embryo. Is it have a moral status or not? So that was my point. So let's proceed to our next point, which is from SYAHMI.
Okay, thank you, ADHAM. Like I mentioned earlier, I will be presenting on the ethical dilemma as well as the potential solutions for embryonic stem cell research. So embryonic stem cell research, or in short is ESCR, possesses frontier of medical breakthrough, which is important ethical dilemma of humanity and give rise to a question: do we support the destruction of embryo to further science, or do we protect embryo? We face critical decision in protecting embryo from being a part of science experiment, or think it is ethical to kill a few embryos. Those who agree stands up to this research as it holds great promise for better understanding as well as curing chronic diseases such as diabetes, Parkinson's disease, as well as spinal cord injury, which could possibly save more lives in the future. Those who oppose says that this research is unethical. Destroying blastula to obtain embryonic stem cell is like destroying an unborn child. Embryos are used in these procedures, which cause political and moral controversy, a hot topic. Some believe embryonic stem cell is not developed into a baby just yet. Unless it is embedded to the uterus wall, it will never have the chance to develop into a baby. While others believe that embryo is a human being and deserves respect. Some believe to an extent where embryo is a human being, and this research is immoral because the monk to kill a person in order to treat other people's disease. Embryonic stem cell research also possesses moral dilemma. Embryonic stem cell research also possesses moral dilemma as it forces to choose between two moral principles. First is the duty to prevent suffering. Second is the duty to respect the value of human life, which in this case, it is impossible to respect both principles. As for this research, we need to obtain embryos for discovery of new treatments to alleviate sufferings, as well as we need to kill a few embryos which potentially destroy a human life. So moving on with the next slide, which is the potential solutions that could replace embryonic stem cell research, which is the first one is induced pluripotent stem cells, or mainly known as iPS cells. These cells are generated from adult somatic cells through genetic programming. It was first discovered by Japanese stem cell researcher Shinya Yamanaka, who was awarded with the Nobel Prize 2012 through the discovery of mature cells that can be programmed to become pluripotent, which is a major factor just like embryonic stem cell. iPS cells are similar to embryonic stem cells, where both comprises epigenetic landscapes, which are important for pluripotency maintenance. For example, another similarities are teratoma formation, generation of embryonic bodies, visible chimeras, as well as the ability to undergo differentiation. The advantages and disadvantages of iPS cells. iPS cells are not derived from human embryos, so it causes less ethical issues, and it is able to accelerate tissue reconstruction to cell differentiation. However, it may associate with cancer as well as low programming rate. For example, iPS cells in bone tissue engineering, it is promoted by next generation of scaffold bone tissue, where it guides bone tissue repair and provide molecular recognition for differentiation. However, it faces additional challenges where exhaustion of stem cells in the aging adult cells. In certain procedures, they insert exogenous DNA into organism genome, which can cause or trigger cancer-causing genes. Another solution would be adult stem cell research, as it is a somatic cell, known as a somatic cell, where it is undifferentiated cells that can be found throughout the body after development. It multiplies through mitosis, which is known as cell division, to replenish dying cells and regenerate damaged tissue. Like iPS cells, adult stem cells also have their clinical significance as well as the downside. The clinical significance are they are used for treatment of leukemia and related bone or blood cancer utilizing bone marrow transplant, and they are also used for testing patient-specific response to drug. The The downside of this research is they may have limited potency as well as very rare and difficult to obtain. That's all from me. The next point will be presented by AZAM SYAFIQ, which is Embryonic Stem Cell Research and Religions. Thank you.
Thank you, SYAHMI, for the insight. Embryonic stem cell research and religion. Because it has given people ethical dilemmas, whether it's okay or not to be conducting this research. So in some cases, they will refer on their belief, such as Islam, Christian, Buddhism. As we all know, every religion has their own belief. So it's also the same with how we can conduct this research, because different religions view status of early human embryo in different ways. In Malaysia, we have 4 major religions, and that is Islam, Buddhism, Christians, and Hinduism. We will be review on each of these major religions' view. First, in Islam, based on Muzakara Fiqh and International Fiqh Conference in 11 March 2002, they decided that human cloning is haram or forbidden. They also said that the usage of stem cell is allowed in medical research as long as it is not from the human cloning and follow the Sharia law. Then it was updated that in 22 February 2005, it is allowed to use the stem cells to create new cells for medical purpose only. Well, in general, Islam allowed the stem cell research as long as it is not breaking the Sharia law. Next, for Buddhism, based on Biomedicine Volume Number 1 by Mathana Amaris Fiona Sivaraman and Siti Noraini Muhammad research that almost all Buddhist scholars in Malaysia approve of embryonic stem cells research and do not see any moral differences between the use of surplus or research embryos. But one Buddhist leader did not agree with the use of research embryos, but they do allow the stem cell research if the stem cell is obtained in the time of 4 to 5 days post that time. The embryo is still not considered or categorized as living things, so it won't fall as murder and is allowed. Next is Christians. In this case, Catholic Christian. All the Catholic representatives totally disapprove of embryonic stem cells research, where they don't allow the research on stem cells. This is because they believe that creating new organ from stem cells or human cloning is not an act of human being. It is an act of God. Thus, it is forbidden for them. Lastly, in Hinduism, all Hindu representatives approve of embryonic stem cell research, but limited it to using only surplus embryos and agreed that the use of research embryos should be prohibited. This is, in the other hand, also leave a problem. Next slide. Also leave a problem which different religion is complicating the research. Regulation Malaysia, it is because the feedback given by the representative of each religion is not so positive overall. Without legal framework, stem cell technologies remain generally unregulated, and the unclear regulation has to some extent hindered Malaysian stem cell scientists to undertake research and development in the field, especially investigative work involving human embryos. Next slide. To conclude our presentation, the ethical debate of stem cell research is undeniably deep and involves topic range from whether or not stem cell is considered human or how effective the research would be. Our group consensus to stem cell research should be pursued. If successful, the benefit will be astounding, since our legal system already decided that cluster of cells used to create germline is not human. They have already weighted all the surrounding ethical principles. We agree with this, and that researching stem cells should not consider tampering with human life. Stem cell research have the ability to provide treatment for many of today's incurable disease and disorder. To not pursue it would be an injustice. That's all from us. Thank you.